We're starting a new story series. We're going to be looking at the life of Joseph. What's crazy amazing is that Genesis covers 37 to 50 on the life of Joseph. And we have to ask ourselves, why would Moses spend so much time writing about Joseph when he could have been writing about Adam or Noah or Abraham as the father of nations? Well, theologians believe that if we look at the life of Joseph, we're going to see that each of us have the same life cycles occurring in our life. There are patterns that happen that if we watch, we can learn from them and we can grow. But if we also look at the life pattern of Joseph, we'll discover that it also follows the same arc pattern of the Bible and the story arc for Jesus. So in the Bible, in Genesis 37, let's see what we can discover about his life and this portion of his story. So we are told that there was a man named Jacob, and Jacob's name was also Israel. And Jacob had settled in the land of Canaan because his father had settled there as a foreigner. Now, Jacob had 2 wives and 13 sons. 11 of those sons were from his wife, Leah, and her maids, and 2 were from Rachel. Rachel was the love of his life. Now, Joseph was his son from Rachel, and he was the oldest of her 2. And Jacob really loved Joseph. He loved Joseph so much that he made a special coat for him that was long and beautiful and colorful, and he gave it to him. And this made his other brothers jealous. See, Joseph had a bad habit. His habit was that he would watch his brothers to see what they were doing, and when they did something bad, he would then go and tell their father. And they didn't like this at all. In fact, it made it hard for them to even be kind to him. Well, one day he was having a dream. And in this dream, he dreamt that wheat all around him were built up in these huge, tall stalks. And the stalks surrounded him, and they all bowed down to him. Well, when he got up, he went and he told his brothers about this dream. And his brothers were like, "What? Do you think that you will be king and we will bow to you?" Well, Joseph then ended up having another dream. But this time in his dream, he dreamt that the sun, the moon, and the stars, 11 of them, bowed to him. But this time he told his father and his brothers. Well, his father said, "Do you think that your mother and brothers and I will bow to you?" Now, this really made his brothers angry. But Jacob, he was thinking, like, what does this mean? Well, time had come where his brothers were off in the fields in a faraway land in the area of Shechem, watching over the sheep. And the father wanted Joseph to go and check on his brothers to see how they were doing. So Joseph set off, and when he got to the land of Shechem, he looked around, but he couldn't find them anywhere. They were nowhere to be found. And a man saw him looking, and he said to him, "So, who are you looking for?" And he said, "Well, my brothers, they were here." And he said, "Oh, yes, I saw them." And he goes, "Do you know where they went?" And he said, "I think they said they were going to the land of Dothan." So Joseph set off to go to Dothan to find his brothers. Well, as he was getting into the land of Dothan, his brothers could see him from a distance. And they said to one another, "Look, there's that dreamer. Let's kill him. Let's deal with those dreams and show him." And Reuben's like, "Well, let's not kill him. Let's just throw him over in that deep well, that cistern over there." So when Joseph arrived, they grabbed him and ripped off his coat, and they threw him in the cistern. And then they sat down and ate lunch. Well, while they were eating lunch, a caravan started to pass by them. that had all of these camels that were loaded up with these exotic spices. And Judah said, well, it won't profit us to kill him. What if we sold him to that caravan? And the brothers agreed. And so they took Joseph and they sold him for 20 pieces of silver. Reuben had gone back to the cistern because he had planned to go and rescue his brother and take him back home. But when he got to the cistern, Joseph wasn't there. And when he went back to his brothers, he was like, what are we going to do? And so they all agreed to tear the coat up, and then they took it and they dipped it in goat's blood, and then they headed back. And when they got to their father, they showed him the coat and they said, look what we found. Do you think it's Joseph's? And immediately Jacob began to cry, and he's like, it is Joseph's coat. And he tore his clothes, and he began to wail and cry, and nobody could comfort him. He changed into mourning clothes, and he said, I am going to cry and be sad the rest of my life because my son Joseph is gone. And at the same time that this was happening, that caravan arrived in Egypt, and Joseph was sold to Potiphar. Potiphar was the captain of the guard of Pharaoh's palace. And Pharaoh, he was the king of Egypt. May God honor the telling of his word. So as you listen to this story, what did you learn about Joseph and his character at this point in his life? What do you discover about his brothers? And what do you think maybe God wants to change? It's important for us to be in the Word so we can be with Jesus, so that we will be transformed. Shalom, y'all.